Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome yet again to another session of Mental Health Tuesday. Today, February 21st, 2023. It's an occasion that we are going to behold, inshallah. My name is Mohammed Ali Mwachausa. I'll be your host and moderator. I'll be assisted by a plethora of other mental health practitioners from SambaSports here. We have Mwanaisha, we have Abigail, we have Cephas. So today we are lucky yet again. We have a special lady in the house, very youngish looking. Nimrata Shah or Nimo Shah. How are you, Nimo?
Hi, Mohammed. I'm fine. Thanks.
Good to see you always with that smile plastered on your face.
Yes.
One needs to know what you eat, what you think that keeps that smile permanently plastered on your face.
Yes. It's a combination of many things, which we'll discuss today for sure.
Indeed, and the subject today is one that is very close to many people's hearts. It's a subject that needs some very good service, I may say. We are talking about how do we move on after rejection, or how do we manage rejection in our lives? How do we progress with our daily activities, our dreams, our objectives, knowing that we are suffering rejection? That is the subject today, and I don't know how much you have prepared for us, Nimo, today.
I was thinking about this topic the whole day today, and I was wondering, how do we look at the aspects of rejection? Because it's not just rejection, a word that you can say to somebody and they easily relate to it. There are always aspects to it that require, like an onion, you layer the peels of the onion. It's the same with this word, rejection, I think. It's got many peels and many layers to it that we need to understand. So I thought that I would look at some of those layers today so that we can understand what it is about rejection that affects us psychologically, affects us mentally. And, why I say there are two aspects is because rejection is where you get rejected in a socioeconomic way and you feel down and hopeless. And that could be not getting a job you want, not feeling a part of your society because of that. You may see everybody else doing well around you except yourself. And that's another feeling of rejection. Or it could be that, you feel people are better than you. They look better than you. They may be married and you may not. They may have a car. They may have so many things that you don't. And that also is there. So there is not only, and then the third aspect is that you also reject people. You may have faced rejection, but you may also have given that to someone else. So it's not that rejection is just about you, it's also about what you've given out to others as yourself, as a person, as an individual. And, I would say that part of life is rejection. It is a part of life. If you see it as something that only you uniquely go through, it's not then healthy. This is because if I were to put 300 people in a room, and as an experiment, I would say how many people have been rejected, you would find that all 300 people have faced some form of rejection in one way or another. And people process it in different ways. Everybody processes rejection in a different way. It's not that I can process rejection and I'll be okay in 2 days. You can process rejection and never be okay with it. So it's this process that we need to deal with. And it's also regulation of your emotion. And I would say rejection leaves the biggest impression on the mind. And this I say with a lot of experience, because I find that in today's world, our youth and individuals find rejection something that they can't easily digest or handle. And there's nobody to blame for this. You can't blame your parents, you can't blame people around you. It's because of the way society has become, the way society has been conditioned. You know, that conditioning is that everything is instantly available to you. It's instantly given. It's instantly bought, or uh, because of development in some way or another, it's been processed by people, young people, differently. So, if you put a young person in a job today, they'll be like, hey, I like my job. And after 5 days, I can't stand my job. Why? Oh, because my boss told me this and that and the other and didn't like me, didn't like. Okay, maybe your boss has some critical elements, but that doesn't mean you have to give up and feel down and rejected because of that. So the threshold, and I'm sorry, Mohammed, I'm talking a lot, but I'd just like to open the platform so that we have many elements to and aspects to rejection that we can talk about, and we can think about while we're on this forum. And that, you know, when we have this aspect of rejection, that we look at it two ways, not one way. We understand that yes, we have been giving rejection at some point, and we have faced it also. And I find that it can have a very big psychological impact. So there is an empathetic element involved in it, where you can share your rejection, and there is also a process where you can regulate that rejection. You can deal with it, basically. There's a word for it. So the psychological word is regulate, and the other word is, okay, I can deal with this. So I've given you the technical part, and I think the more happy part of this is that how do you see the world around you? If you see it always that I'm being rejected and people are horrible, and I know many people like that who think that's how the world works, but it isn't. It's also about how you're perceiving what is being given to you. And that can only change when you go deep within yourself. And that can be through something called reflection, something called meditation, or something called finding your inner self. And for me, meditation and breathing has really worked. It's really helped me understand. And this is the way I feel, if we can have education of the mind, the tolerance levels for rejection can be bigger. Life is always a combination. It's never all roses and happiness. And also, Mohammed, people feel hopeless about it because they may have faced rejection all their life. And then what do you do about that? So I've now opened the platform, and you can share your thoughts, please.
Oh, thank you very much, Nimo, for that. I would say opening presentation around rejection, and that rejection can be two ways. It's not just about you receiving. Sometimes you may be the giver, and I think that's a wake up call. And let's hear from the participants. What kind of rejection have they experienced, either themselves or they may have had a friend, and how did they cope? Um, so that we may find a diversity out of this, and then Nimo, you may be able to speak uh, for or about quite a number. So anybody, you may raise your hand, and we'll give you the platform to speak, or you may write on the call chat, whichever type of rejection you have faced and how you have coped or how you have struggled. Then Nimo is going to speak to that. Let's go.
Yeah, I think also, the world is moving in such a dynamic way while people are just formulating their thoughts or wanting to write something. The world is moving in such a dynamic, fast way, and the competition is so, high. And our youth have been put under a lot of pressure. So that rejection culture is there. But I would say don't lose hope, because the minute you lose hope, that is when you can't face the rejection. Yeah. And I don't say you always should face rejection and be okay with it. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying when you learn to process it and deal with it, it becomes something that you can set aside, like you climb the stairs to get somewhere. You have to go somewhere and you have to go up the stairs to get it, to get to that place. That's the same way you can deal with rejection. You can climb the stairs and you get there because you have to, you know. You can't say, oh, I don't want to go somewhere, and you've booked or you've said you'll be in another place because the stairs are too high. You go there and you say, fine, I've committed, I'm going to be there. So, you know, when this culture of hopelessness spreads in us and in society, that's when people come forward and they're given platforms like this where we can interact and share and not be afraid to say, that this is what made me feel rejected and down. And, it's very hurtful, actually. I will tell you. To be rejected is the most painful process, especially by someone you love or think you love. So I get it. I understand. And I know what it feels like. I've been rejected myself so many times, Mohammed. When I was young, I got really the lowest grades in my class, and I didn't know whether I was going to get into university. And there's so many times I've been rejected, but that didn't mean that I gave up. And, many people think it can be because, yes, you're economically fine, but it's not like that. It's also about your attitude, you know, your attitude of wanting to make it happen for yourself. That's it.
Thanks, Nimo. I think guys have stories, but maybe it's just um, maybe the confidence to be the ones to start off. Nimo, I have learned that when God wants to have you see a bigger gate, then they have to close the door that you are used to. It is upon that time that a door is closed, that is when you look around and realize there's actually a bigger gate for you. But if that door doesn't close, then you will keep thinking that that's the only door that you can ever have, and it's the best. So these are some of the things that actually we learn through rejection. And I want to say, as we wait for people to volunteer their own stories, that I have suffered, I think, the most ridiculous rejections in my life. And I have faced rejections because of love affairs. I have faced rejections because of poverty. I have faced rejection because of complexion, race, and stuff. But when you look back, you always laugh because then God created a bigger platform for you, uh, and forget that those rejections actually, if you were not rejected in the first place, maybe you wouldn't have boarded the other platforms that God brought to you. So I think sometimes I look at rejection as a sweet platform, like it's the launching pad for reconnection or reincarnation, sort of. Guys, anybody who wishes to speak, don't make it a dialogue between me and Nimo. I'm sure we can speak for another 2 hours. Or can't we, Nimo?
think we can. I think rejection, I would say, and I mentioned this to you earlier. There's a more practical level at an socioeconomic, social, so many injustices can happen this way. And I feel like the first rejection we face, is it can be based on anything, discrimination, your color, how you look. I was speaking to a 14-year-old and an 18-year-old, 17, and they told me in school they were bullied because of their figure, of how they looked, how they were rejected by people. And I didn't, in my eyes, I didn't see anything wrong with the way they looked or the way they were. And then when I went on to speak with the mother, she was telling me, this is normal in school. It's normal for older children and younger children to face body shaming. And then, the child goes through so much trauma because they're not able to understand what's wrong with the way their body shape is, or the way they look, or the way they're, whether they look tall or whether they look short, or whether, it's with anything. The idea here is, Mohammed, to strengthen your own mind. You know, it's not that you strengthen your mind so much that you're oblivious to what people say, but you strengthen your mind so much that you're not influenced constantly or hurt constantly by what people are thinking about you. And then that rejection trauma is nullified a lot if you're able to do that. So it's building mind resilience and understanding that people can always say, even with the most noble of intentions, people will find a judgment, they will find a criticism, they'll do anything based on that. So I really think that we need to understand how this works in our own mind
Nimo,
before we are able to.
just hold on. You've said something that is really pricking me. That rejection is not just about you getting pushed out of a circle. It could be a social circle. It could be a physical uh, place. It could be a group or something. So you're saying rejection is not just that, but rejection is also when in that family you are doing your best and people don't see that you are doing enough.
Yes.
That rejection also is in that social class where you are really trying your best to fit, but people don't think you've done enough. That rejection is when you go out helping out a people, but constantly people want more of you. They don't think you've done enough. So I think that's another angle of rejection that I've not looked at. So thank you very much. Please, anybody who would like to share, please raise your hand or write something on your call chat. Biasha, your hand is up. Good
Okay,
evening,
good
Biasha.
evening.
Hi.
Okay, when we talk about rejection, to my understanding, when you're the one that rejects another person, it does not hurt that much as compared to when you're the one who is rejected. So, what comes into your mind by then? You start asking yourself questions, the negative self talks. Am I not of value to this person or to this group or to this community? Am I doing less? Am I not worth it? So the negative self-talks are the first things that happen to yourself. Then they end up affecting your feelings, feeling low, feeling depressed. And the last thing that you do, you just start isolating yourself, withdrawing and doing less to the community. So the thing that we can emphasize on this, it's being optimistic that things will get best, but how to deal with rejection is how not many people don't know. So in this, people get affected and feel that that's the end of it. So personally, I go through it. Whenever I feel rejected, I feel, no, people are not appreciating what I'm doing. So instead of maybe checking what I'm not doing right, I start stopping doing what I'm doing exactly. You see, So rejection is not something easy to deal with, and most people are affected since they don't know how to deal with it. So that's what I can share.
Wow, thank you very much, Biasha. And before I give it to Nimo, there's a video that I found a few days ago and I circulated it, that someone was seen trying to help a cat that was um, trapped in in a crack of some sort. And as he was trying to help the cat kept scratching his hands. And a passerby was like, "What's wrong with you? Why are you struggling to help this cat? And it keeps on scratching you as you try to save its life. Why don't you just leave it and go away?" And the guy said, "It is the nature of a cat to scratch people, and it is in my nature to help people. So I'm not going to relinquish my nature for the cat's nature, because the cat's nature is to scratch while my nature is to help." So Biasha, maybe this one may help you, that there are people in our lives whose nature is just to criticize, whose nature is just to attack. But you don't relinquish your nature of helping just because you are helping people who are bound to attack and criticize. Nimo?
Yes, and I totally agree with you, Mohammed. I think mine would be the same answer. And if we look at it from another point of view, I said in the beginning that rejection hurts, it really hurts. Who hasn't been so deeply hurt by somebody? You could have been in a relationship with someone for 25 years and suddenly they decide that's it. And you're not able to fathom or get it why this has happened. Or you could be in a job for that many years and you've given your all to it, your life to it, and suddenly that goes. Or your family, your own people around you, they suddenly decide that that's it. You're not good enough. But are we really living for what other people say, or are we living to make ourselves happy? You know, and at what cost are you going to give your happiness to other people? This is a question we need to ask. It's like you hook your happiness onto what others say, and
It's
then your
called
happiness.
trying to fit, Nemo. We are trying to fit. We are
Yes.
struggling. We really try to fit, and it hurts.
And the one thing I would say is be yourself. People will like you for who you are rather than somebody who you've changed yourself to be because someone else criticized you one day. Today this blue may look nice on me, and someone will comment it looks nice. Tomorrow they may say it doesn't. Does that mean I stop wearing a blue color because of it? It's a simple example, and it doesn't overrule the hurt element. Yes. And I think that we really need to understand that rejection is a part of life and we must learn to deal with it. And there are ways. One of the ways is, I would suggest, and the simplest and easy, is meditation. Second is breathing exercises. Third is learning about yourself, mind resilience, doing workshops that develop who you are. And wherever you are, feeling comfortable with yourself. And that's a huge journey. It's a huge journey, especially for a woman and a man, when they go into a relationship, into a job, from a youth to an adult. It's always a process. It's never easy. So nobody's saying it's easy to do that, but the journey has to be begun somewhere. The first step has to start somewhere. And so, I remember going through feelings of rejection when I was young, then a young adult, and it never went away. It never went away. It's never something that goes away so easily, like you said. And so I'm empathetic to that pain. But at the same time, if you stay in that, you become a victim of your own emotions, of your own feeling of being sorry for yourself, which is not a way to live your life. It isn't. So the first step is to take towards yourself is understanding who you are. And I've shared what worked for me. And, Volunteering your time for others is another good way. And we can volunteer for anything. There are so many good things you can do for people. It's such a good way of self-discovery. It makes you understand who you are, meet new people, open new aspects into your life, get you even maybe what you want. I find people are closed with their time, closed with the people around them, closed with themselves, and then they project that onto others, and then they expect society to be nice to them. Why? You know, nobody cares. Nobody has time for you or your feelings. This is a reality of where we are in the world. So you better get with it fast. If you're going to go cry to somebody, they'll listen to you for 5 minutes. After that, the tuning is off. Okay? So I won't lie to you and say the world is a wonderful place. It's going to take time to get to that place where people listen to you and they are compassionate. But around you, your listening ears will only be for a day, maybe, or an hour or a week. And then after that, it's your stuff to deal with. So don't be a victim of your emotions. And I've shared what works for me, Mohammed. Maybe you can share what worked for you. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Nimo. I think what works for me sometimes is looking at the bigger picture. I've had moments in my life when I sleep and I'm saying, when I wake up, I am not going to go there again. I think I'm done with these people. And then you ask yourself through the night that if I don't go, how many people am I hurting? What if I go? How many people shall I have an opportunity to change their lives? And when you realize how many people probably deserve your time and maybe they rely on it for their lives sometimes, for their sustenance, then you say, it doesn't matter how many people reject me, but all that it matters is how many people are going to be lifted by my application in their lives. So when you broaden your wings and look at it from the bigger picture, it helps you moving forward. It helps you moving forward. And by the way, just like that adage of a finger, that when you point a finger at someone, then several are points at you. When you feel that you are rejected in your circle, you never know the thousands of people who celebrate you all the time in the world. All you need to do is to raise up your head and look forward and around you. You realize so many people cherish you, they love you, they respect you, and they feel you are a wonderful person. But the only problem is you are cocooned by your small environment and you want certain people to acknowledge you, yet they don't have the ability and the attitude and probably the pedigree to respect you or to appreciate you. But over and above them, there are thousands out there who really feel they would wish to spend time with you all their lives because they feel you are a wonderful person. So for me, what works again is to broaden your gaze and say, aha, someone feels this about me, but it doesn't matter. If there are other people who feel I'm good enough, then I will be living or I will be doing this for them. Rashid has written on the chat, and I think he's giving a lesson for us. He says, I once had an egoistic boss at one point in life at work. I never felt safe around him because of his actions. Just thought to myself that I am there in that position through my hard work and my work output there matters, which would only make me happy. So when he thought about that, I am here because of my hard work, I earned this position, and that when I give it my all, I'm going home happy. That worked for him. And he said, this helped me a lot in working hard at work and not being bothered by the boss's action. So that's another way that I worked for him. Biasha Zito says, the breathing exercise works well for me. I also tell myself, this too shall pass. No matter how worse the situation is, I always encourage myself that I can deal with it, provided that I am not pessimistic. That's it again. Thank you, Bihasha. Congratulations for Bihasha and Rashid. There's always something that you can do to move around these smallish feelings of rejection. Mama Riziki says it's because I believed in them, Muhammad. So I feel that they should not reject. They should not reject me either, nor undermine me in any circumstances. Yes, I think, Nimo, you've mentioned this, that the worst moment in life is when the person you trusted the most are the ones who show you rejection. Can you speak to that, Nimo?
Yeah, so I know many people, in fact, maybe all of us here have faced that feeling. And I've also mentioned that it has a huge psychological impact on the mind and the body. They're both connected. And how do we deal with it? It's just such a hard, it's like, you want to face it, but you can't because your emotions are not processed. The brain processes rejection in such a way that, no matter what you do, you remember the words, the hurtful feelings, everything comes in one way, like a wave on your brain. And I would say, life is much bigger than that small little part that entered into your life in the form of rejection. But for you to see that, it will take time. It's never going to be easy to jump over the feelings of rejection the way it is, like you feel maybe frustration. Frustration is easy to jump over, but rejection, it takes much work, inner work. It takes a lot of inner strength to move forward. So, speaking from that point of view, you have to ask yourself, would I like to always be in this conscious feeling of rejection and victimhood and crying and hopelessness and hating somebody and resenting somebody? Because that means you're giving them a free space in your head to be there. And I would say after about 10 or 15 days, when that event has taken place, you then have times where you can, delink your emotion from the event slowly. I'm not saying now, it happens slowly. Once you've delinked that, then you're able to see the event as something that happened rather than something that you're feeling. So there are two different important aspects that I've mentioned. And then slowly but surely, you find that, okay, I think about it, but not in that awful, hateful, resentful way that I did before. So you must remember, when somebody takes out some insult, humiliation, anger towards you, it's never about you. It's always about them. Why then would you associate so much of your emotion towards that one person or persons, and you just end up ruining your entire life because of that? So, Mohammed, there's such an important part of this that comes in, and that is forgiveness. And whether it takes you a year or 2 or 3 or even 4, you must begin somewhere. And I'm not saying the day that event played out in your life, you start from there. You give yourself time and do that. And, people are people. They will say something. If I guarantee you, if you go to that person and said, hey, do you remember on this day you told me this, and this hurt me to the deepest core of my being, that person will tell you, well, did I say that? Really? They can't remember, but you will hold on to it like the gospel truth, because the tendency of the mind, when I give you 10 compliments and 1 insult, the tendency of the mind is to hold on to the insult. You will not remember the 10 compliments. So how to get over this tendency? And I think you've shared and I've shared, keeping yourself active, keeping yourself fit, doing exercises like breathing, incorporation of meditation. It's a proven science and breathing to let go. So, when you ask me about life, and I've trained hundreds of people over time in my life, I would tell you that life is the art of letting go. How much are you able to let go? That much happier you will be. But you have to make that choice. I can tell you this, but you have to decide that for yourself, So, I feel everybody's pain. I get it. It's almost like a suffering, a misery, because everyone hates being rejected, myself included. And I really feel that, if a parent rejected you, if a sibling rejected you, if an uncle rejected you, an aunt, anybody, it's the most painful process that anyone can go through in their lives. And the more we learn and we see that just as a delivery to us for growth, and maybe it might take you a year to see that or two, you will always find a space in which you can heal from that and then take the lesson or whatever it is was you needed to learn, and then move on with your life. Because I feel every event makes you stronger. Even atoms have a positive and a negative ion. So I can't understand why there's a culture of we always have to have good things happen in our life. You also have to make the good things happen. This is how life works. And yeah, go ahead, Mohammed.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Nimo. I don't follow politicians normally, but I think today or yesterday I was listening to Dennis Itumbi. He was talking about Aziad Nasinya and the kind of criticism she's getting, and she's become a star and stuff like that. And one thing he said, and it really struck me, he said, in football or in any sport, the person with the ball is where all cameras point at. The pitch will have 22 players, but it is the player with the ball that will be followed by the cameras all over the place, because the person with the ball is the most important. So he said, because you are doing something meaningful in your life, you are doing great things, you are above your ground, that is when people will focus on you. And a lot of them will be throwing criticism on you. But if you were to sleep and just lay back and do nothing meaningful for your life, you'll get less and less people talking about you negatively. So the reason that you are facing rejection, you are facing ridicule, you are facing criticism, it's because the light is on you, because you are the one with the ball. The moment you drop the ball, the cameras will be off you. So if you want to go to glory, then you have to normalize being talked about. But if you don't want to be talked about, then stop progressing in your life. And that really struck me. The one thing, Nimo, that really pisses off people who send rejections your side is when they see you happy and bouncing. It really kills them. But if you wallow and succumb to that rejection and you are seen to be shedding kilos and seen to be depressed and stressed all the time, then actually you are feeding their ulcer. They are happy when they see that because of their rejection, your moments are dimmed. But when you understand that people rejected you and you go about your life bouncing and happy, and really enjoying your life, you are killing those people who rejected. So choose one out of the two. Do you want to be the one suffering because of the rejection, or do you want to be happy and let people eat a humble pie? On the call chat, Nimo, we have Juma Pakia, who says, indeed, there are times in life you feel like you've been rejected, even with your own people. but absorbing it and gather strength and move on is the best thing to do. Thank you very much, Juma, for that. Ramadan TK says, feeling of being rejected is more or less hurting when comes direct, open, spoken by people rejecting, but can really destroy your mind and sometimes your emotions many times when done indirectly. You humiliate many days without getting to what it is. You may take months of accepting until you become strong to live no life moment in repeat and to learn more survival tactics. Actually, Ramadan, let me tell you, if people were honest, they'll come to you and tell it on your face because they want you to grow and want to you to learn from your mistakes. But if they reject you and don't tell you the reasons, or they do it discreetly, it means they are only jealous. Because if they meant that you are a bad person and they want you to change, then they'll give that feedback to you. If they don't, then just know they are just frogs chirruping while you as a cow is drinking water. Zito Biasha says, I agree with what Mohammed is saying. When you are doing something great, you will always get insults and some form of rejection. That's the society we live in. Thank you very much, Biasha. And the sooner you know that, the better for you. Priziki says, how do we work on getting into relationships after a series of rejection? Trusting again is a problem. Nimo will speak to that. Biasha says, how does one cope up with regrets after rejection? So Nimo, you have 2 questions and you have 8 minutes to deal with them. One is how do you get into new relationships if you have suffered rejection in the past? And how does one cope with the regrets after rejection? You've been rejected, now you regret ever having known these people. How do you cope with that regret? Nimo, you have 7 minutes now.
Yeah, when you're in a relationship and somebody rejects you, it's a painful, deeply painful process because you are, trusting that person and you're trusting that they would accept you and they would, love you the way they are or the way you are, and they don't do that. And it could also be because of a job or I'm not sure in which context, but in the relationship context, it's the most painful and traumatic on the brain. So that being because, love is our nature. We love, our children. We love our mother. We love our father. We love people, like I'm talking in the sense that you may even love just walking walking on the road and observing people. It can be in any form. And when you face a rejection in terms of who you are and for what you're loving, it becomes a big issue and it becomes a problem. And why is it that we are selling ourselves short? We look for people to love us. We look for approval. We look for their approval before we start accepting who we are. We say we can't love ourselves until somebody else shows that they love me as a person. I would flip the coin. And the way I'd flip it is, I would ask myself, am I happy just being me and myself and who I am, and then contributing to a relationship? Then I will attract the right person to me. So all this rejection I've faced so far, it has lowered my self-esteem. Yes, it has made me feel inconfident, hopeless. But at the same time, am I able to flip the coin and work on myself a little bit and then go out there and say, maybe people can love me the way I am, the way I have made myself to be. Because generally what we do is we go with a whole heap of expectation in front of somebody, especially in relationships. It's one of the main leading causes of breakdown. We go with heaps of expectation to the person, like a tray full of expectations, and we say, yeah, I love you because, because I'll be with you because, I'll be in a relationship with you because. And when that person doesn't deliver, you end up getting so disappointed, and they can't see what you're seeing because you've never told them this is the way you think and the way you want a relationship to be. And then they end up rejecting you and you blame yourself, you hate yourself. It's not like that. You know, you have to see that person as an individual who has his or her own ideas about you, and they may not match, and that's it. There are 7.2 billion people in the world today. You have many, many people to choose from, you know, if that's your goal. And I know, because love is our nature, I say that because, as I said, we have the first relationships we have are with our parents, and they have given that unconditional love to you in one way or another, and then it moves on to others. So are you checking your expectation versus what that person did to you? And are you able to understand that? You know, blame can be not one-sided. It always has to be two people come into a picture when you blame somebody or something. It's never just one person. So this is what I'd like to say. With relationships, if it's lowered your self-esteem and made you feel hopeless and useless and inconfident, and that you feel nobody can love you, then take time to be with yourself. Take time to do things you love. Take time to do things that make you happy, and that will help you to attract the right person. Okay, that's it. Thanks, Mohammed.
Oh, thank you very much, Nimo, for this wonderful session today. We have come to the end of the session, 2 minutes to 9, and what I can say to everyone here is that there is no one in the world who can make you happy if you decide not to yourself. It doesn't matter what kind of relationship, what kind of connection, what kind of situation. When you face rejection, ask yourself, can I reject myself too? If you cannot, then work on it from your end and allow a bigger world to accept you. For everyone who rejects you, work around yourself for multitudes of other people to accept you for who you are. So thank you very much. That's all we had for tonight. It's been
And Mohammed,
sweet.
I want to end on a note of contributing to a relationship. Rather than take, when you give in that relationship, I feel things work out, you know. If that person takes time to give back, it's okay. It can be a colleague, a boss, a friend, anyone. It, in the end, you'll see if it takes few weeks, it will work. Yeah.
Thank you very much. And on that, it says that whatever you do is like a seed, and a seed germinates, and every seed gives 10 or more folds. So if you reject someone, you've planted a seed of rejection. Just know before you die, you will be rejected tenfold. And if you welcome and be nice to people, just know you've planted a seed. And that being nice or that accommodation will be paid unto you more than tenfold before you die. Thank you very much, good people. It's been a wonderful session. We have to break until next week, Tuesday, like this. We love you and have a good night.